Welcome back, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I'm author and ghost historian Mike Ricksecker. With me tonight is Katie Hopkins. Our very own Vanessa Hogle is not feeling well tonight, so Katie has stepped. That's the giveaway. Okay, so Carl Johnson, the renowned demonologist Carl Johnson, has been involved with the paranormal field since the 70s, and gosh, Carl, I mean, we've had you on before. I think everybody knows you, so welcome back.
Yeah, they know of me. Hi there. It's good to be back.
Yeah,
Rabbit Hole.
Absolutely. And last time that we had Carl on, we talked about his book, Shadow Realms Demonology Handbook, which I have here in my hand. So make sure to get that as well, which we'll probably eventually get to as we go along here. But before,
did you want to read a chapter of it? Or,
yeah, we'll just sit here
and make it an easy interview.
Yeah, just read an entire chapter.
Uh-huh.
No, we won't do that. We want them to read it.
That's true, a little preview, but yeah, I want them to read it.
Yep. And so, so Carl, you have, I thought we would just roll right into it. You have an appearance coming up here. We were kind of joking around before the rabbit hole here. What show? But you do have something coming up here.
I can't talk about it. I don't know that, Mike. I can't talk about it. No, actually, of course, when this was first filmed in mid-August, actually, there was, big secrecy, contractual, limitations and all. But then the show, blasted it on the Travel Channel, and they're advertising it left and right. So yeah, right. I can say anything about it. I don't want to give away everything that happened there. I want you to watch it and see, but it is actual. It is, it's nothing contrived there. It's where we actually forgot the cameras were on it, because the way they filmed this show, they go around with not a big television camera. They have what we call a camcorder, a handheld video camera. And you forget that they're filming it. You just think they're doing it for their own purposes. So it's all very genuine and not contrived. Now, this is for the show Ghost Adventures. And what they will do, their approach to the paranormal is to do an overnight lockdown where they just stay inside the structure of the residence overnight and expose themselves to all kinds of fumes and dust and all. And where they stayed in mid-August was a farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island. It's Round Top Hill Farmhouse. And that was the setting for the movie The Conjuring, of course.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of affectionately calls it The Conjuring House. But, of course, they
you
can't use that as the name.
Well, they don't officially use it now.
Right.
But, I mean, unless you say, we qualify as saying where the Conjuring, story epic took place.
Okay.
But, we say, if you say the Conjuring House, people know what it is right away.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, but it is Round Top Hill Farm. It's in Harrisville, Rhode Island.
Yeah. So Harrisville, Rhode Island. That's where the Perrin family had lived for those 10 years, and a part of the story that I think people don't really realize, because they see what happened in the movie, and they don't realize that you and your brother Keith were very heavily involved in this case, and were the ones that introduced the Warrens to the Perrins.
That is true. Yes, it was a much more complex case than is portrayed in the movie. It would take about a three movies series to portray it as it actually happened. But the fact was that my brother and I were involved with members of a group based at Rhode Island College at that time. In the movie, it says it's taking place in 1971. It actually transpired, all these events transpired that are, depicted in the movie, transpired in August and September 1973. And my brother had placed an ad in a local paper, circular, that was advertising our group based at Rhode Island College. It was PIRO, that's Parapsychology, Investigation, and Research Organization. And so that we would do residential cases, he placed an ad saying, offering our services. And some weeks later, we were contacted by Mrs. Carolyn Perrin, who had not long before, she and her husband Roger and their 4 children, had moved into a house in Harrisville, Rhode Island, a farmhouse that was actually built in 1736, and it was the site of a haunting. She was describing the strange activity taking place in their house, and she invited us. Carolyn Perrin invited us to come and investigate. So we went there in August of 1973, and I remember pulling up to what was then, I believe, a gravel driveway, and I got this eerie feeling as soon as we pulled up. I said, "Oh, something's up here. I just sense it." Well, we weren't disappointed. It was an interesting investigation, and when we first went into the parents' house, we conducted the interview process. I remember one of the daughters said they saw Keith pull up, my brother, my twin brother. He had shoulder-length blonde hair there, and he was carrying a Bible. And one of the girls said, "Mom, Jesus Christ is here. Jesus came to see us." So, but Keith really bonded with these girls. So we went in there, and oh yeah, he was holy man. And so as we were conducting the interview, let's see, it was the case manager was Donna Eisenstadt, and she was the president of Pyro. So as we were talking to Roger and Carolyn and the girls, I remember hearing some shuffling and moving around upstairs. And I asked, someone must be upstairs. The girls told us, "Oh, no, we hear that just about every day. It's just noises upstairs." So the interview recommenced, and I made my way out, just kind of easily made my way upstairs. And, I was poking around a bit. I was in what's kind of a hallway, and there were bedrooms up there. And as I was looking out of a window of one of the bedrooms, but I was still in that hallway area, I saw I remember it was my peripheral vision, my right side, I saw something black seemed to be coming at me. So I reflexively turned to the right, and there's this black cloud thing rolling down the hallway towards me. Now, my first thought in that first split second was, there's a fire in the house.
Right.
And I'm going to smell smoke. So it rolled rapidly up toward me, and I just closed my eyes, and I opened my eyes, and this was gone. I know I saw it. I had time to observe it, but it just dissipated. It was just gone. And what's interesting, just to jump ahead, is that now there are people who still see that cloud-like, misty black formation, whatever it is, they still see it there. And that will tie into our later conversation if we touch on shadow persons.
Yeah, which I would like to, because we did have...
they look like people.
We had Corey and Jen on the Heinzens, who bought the house, and they were talking about still seeing that shadow, that dark cloud coming out of one of the bedrooms.
That's what I was seeing there 46 years ago.
Right.
I mean, I reported that. So then I went back downstairs, and I looked at my brother Keith as if to say, "I got something to tell you." And then eventually I went down to the basement. Everybody else seemed hesitant to go down to that basement, and I went down there, and there was enough light coming down from the upstairs and shining on the stairwell that I didn't bring a flashlight looking around. So I'm making my way around one of the rooms in the basement, and all of a sudden the light bulb went off on me, and I'm in almost total darkness.
Wow.
And if you can imagine a 17-year-old Carl just standing there saying, oh shit. But I felt my way out of the room, and I could see the stairwell. I made my way up. It was just amusing, not really spooky. Except for an eerie feeling, persistent feeling of being watched, like something was observing me. I couldn't shake that. So we made our way, the Pyro team made our way back up to the where the bedrooms were on the second floor. And there was a window in one of these rooms that would not shut. Now, this was a sweltering August late afternoon. Mm-hmm. And I tried to shut that window. I couldn't budge it. Roger Perrin told me, "Oh, that's just stuck open. I can't budge it either." Well, my brother tried something of an experiment. He started to recite a biblical psalm. As he did so, that window just slammed shut on its own. Boom. And at that moment, we heard a slapping sound, and one of the girls I don't remember if it was Judy or what. One of the girls suddenly felt as though she was slapped in her face. We heard it, and she had finger marks on her face. So that was quite dramatic for our first visit. And we paid a series of successive visits to the Perrin's family. And by September, we decided, my brother and I talked about it, we decided we would invite Ed and Lorraine Warren, with whom we were acquainted, to assist in investigating that house. And it's not as though we felt we were in trouble or over our heads, even though we were quite young. We just thought it would be a nice touch for the parents to bring in the experienced Edward and Lorraine Warren.
Right.
Well, we did so, and I remember helping to conduct that tour of the house. I remember greeting Ed and Lorraine when they pulled up in the driveway around Untitled Farm, and that was a pleasant exchange. However, after that, we didn't hear from Carolyn Perrin for some time, and I was her main contact. And eventually she did call, and she informed me that the Warrens had told them, the Perrin, Roger and Carolyn Perrin, that they couldn't be of any help unless they were the only investigators present. You know, they said we were just a bunch of kids and we couldn't do any good. They had to be the sole investigators there. Wow. So that ended our, at least on that level, our association with the parents. But I remember Carolyn Perrin was calling me easily 8, 10, 12 times a day after day, to report what was happening in her house, which I had invited her to do. She was welcome to call me. And I remember I was, of course, living at my parents' house, and my father said, "Who is this woman that keeps calling you? Is this a girlfriend?" I said, "No, not exactly, Dad, no." I was on the phone with Carolyn. One day she was slicing an orange on her kitchen counter, and what seemed to be blood oozed out of that orange onto her feet. And I was right on the phone with her when that happened. And I would hear the background noises. It's not as though the parents were being driven out of their house, but at last they had somebody they could consult and speak to, somebody who, a team that believed them,
right,
wouldn't doubt what they were telling us. And if it weren't for the intervention of the Warrens, and they hadn't promoted the movie, and the movie had been made, The Conjuring, it would have been an interesting case, but it wouldn't have been that outstanding. It would have done just one more case file that we remembered from the past. But because it became a movie, then it became like, one of the top hauntings in the country. It was there was definitely paranormal activity there, but its notoriety blew that somewhat out of proportion. It was a livable place. They had a good life there, did the parents, for 10 years. Mm-hmm. Some spooky things would happen, but many days were business as usual.
Yeah,
of course, we had no inkling. Yeah, if I'd known that was going to become a movie, I would have taken pictures galore. And with the passing months and years, the pictures and the recordings become lost. And I gave my case file, our pyro case file, to Ed Warren, with the guarantee that he would return that to us. And Carolyn Perrin had been doing research on the house's history, and she gave her research and her notes to Lorraine Warren, and Lorraine promised she would promptly return them. Well, we never saw those materials again.
Right, Warren's I remember hearing that.
I think Ed and Lorraine Warren felt it was not good policy to return what they deemed evidence, even though it was not theirs.
Wow.
So that's it in a nutshell, how we were involved with the Roger and Carolyn Perrin case in Harrisville, Rhode Island.
Well, thank you for summing that up. I know there have been some extraordinary things that have happened there. I've read Andrea's books, and you're right. There are times where it was days. It sometimes would go months and nothing would happen.
Right. Now I could devote the whole show to talking about this, but that's the basics of it.
Yeah.
There were many interesting things that happened there, but I didn't feel it was anything that would drive a family out of their home. It was one more, but a unique situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It seemed like a number of the spirits there, they got along with quite well. There's, the little boy they would play with upstairs, and the one that they would always call Manny, and it seemed like there was only, maybe a handful of times where things kind of, got, out of hand, but.
Yeah. Well, those things become out of hand when they occur at night. It's the startling factor. When you're trying to go to bed and you hear thumping on the wall or see a figure flit across the room, yeah, that's going to be perturbing. But it wasn't of a level that it would drive a family out of there, I don't think.
Right.
You know, and with all those many years and the memories that house had absorbed, of course there would be a child spirit and others. You know, child spirits, for some reason, they tend to stick around.
So interesting. Go ahead, Katie.
I'm sorry, Mike.
No,
I was going to go back to the Black Mass.
The Black Mass.
Yeah, the Black
Mass, or the Black Mist fog that you saw, or smoke.
Yeah, it's hard to say because it wasn't a shape; it was amorphous. So it's hard to say that form or that blob. It was pretty much was a blob. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you wanted
clearly
to know
some
about
kind
that.
of energy that.
Yes, it was an energy containment. Why it was black, I don't know. It was the level of energy it was absorbing and then radiating back. For some reason, the frequency or the level of that energy projected it as black, or rather the absence of light. We say black because it's hard to describe nothing, but it was just it had an opacity to it. You could see it blocked out. Vaguely, I could see objects behind it and the doorway behind it. But I think it was black just because of its vibratory level. You know, some manifestations would be whitish. This one just happens to be black. It doesn't mean that it was especially menacing. That's just how it appeared to our human eyes.
Wow.
How our eyes interpreted it.
Yeah, I like how you talked about, how it vibrates. I think that we each, even individually, resonate at a different level. Let me throw something past you here,
which throws it into a different dimensional, plane. It's
right.
It's here and yet it's not. I didn't feel it when it came. I didn't feel cold. I didn't feel anything about it. I didn't smell it. It just came upon me and engulfed me. But it's like I said, here yet not here, another dimension, but it's close enough to our own reality that I could perceive it, and others have. But it's still in the house, whatever it is.
Yeah, because the Heinsens have seen it.
Yeah, it scares people. It's startling, but I don't think it's especially harmful. If you could know when it was going to appear and just observe it, then it wouldn't be so seemingly threatening. It's just that it comes there when will suddenly show up when you don't expect it. So it's a spooky thing.
Right, and let me throw this past you. So, Shana and I, my significant other,
yes,
we have a interesting dichotomy between us where she sees more apparitions than shadows, and I see more shadows than apparitions. And this is, I hearken this back to when you were talking about the vibrational level, and I think we're each personally resonating at different levels, and so there are times in which, like that black shadow mass up there, maybe she wouldn't have seen it, but maybe I would have if we were each standing in that hall because of the way we resonate. I don't know if that's kind of the way you perhaps see these things as well.
I have, but I've gone to where they have been reported, but it's pretty much by chance that I will see these things. I can't go into a place necessarily and say, "Oh, I sense it. The shadow person's here, and there he is, or there it is." It's more like chance when I happen to see them. Well, I'm employed at historic Slater Mill site in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, the seat of the American Industrial Revolution, the start of the real factories in our country, and all three buildings in the grounds have subject to paranormal activity. And who usually sees ghosts looking out of the window or shadowy forms? Tourists who have been there for the first time happen to see something looking out the window or passing through these windows. And, people have worked there for 10, 12 years and not seen anything. I've worked there for 13 years, and I just have sometimes been in the right place at the right time to observe this phenomena.
Yeah, you were showing me a photograph from Slater Mill.
Photographs, yes.
Yeah. And so
I want to get some of those photographs to you. There's a photo. Now, something endemic to the shadow ghosts, which is poorly understood, if at all, is that they are very elusive. I don't think they want to be seen. And they're usually not. I don't think vision is equipped to perceive them normally. But they can show up in photographs and in mirrors. That can reveal the shadow person. In fact, you bring a mirror into a paranormal investigation, that increases your chances of observing a shadow ghost, shadow person. They'll show up in a reflection, they'll show up in a photograph, not as often visually. So, which is interesting, some interesting property about them. They got to be on some other vibratory level. For us to not be able to look right at them and see them most times.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I know when we had a conversation some weeks back, we didn't really talk about mirrors. So that's kind of an interesting point about how these things may be able to be seen through other objects like that. And there's a lot of theories with mirrors about them possibly being portals, or at least a means to access a portal. So.
Yes.
Do you think that has something to do with it?
I believe it does, because they're going to pick up things that we don't normally witness ourselves. So it's nice to have in your supply of paranormal investigating tools. Nice to have a mirror to try and catch things and look in that from time to time. Mm-hmm. Actually, the shadow person, it's located in the Wilkinson Mill on Slater Mill grounds, which was constructed in 1810. And we have no idea why there's a shadow person in there, the shadowy form. And it does take on a human form, too. And, I mean human in the sense of an outline of a human being. We have started to give a little token to the shadow person. I mean, we people who come in there to investigate. I will have a bowl of smooth black stones, and I invite persons to toss one of these stones into the water wheel pit. That was the source of power for the mill. To toss a stone into the water of the wheel pit, and that's a little token. It's somewhat like paying the ferryman that cavorts the souls of the recent dead across the river Styx into the afterlife. So so instead of just going in there saying "show yourself" or hoping he shows up, we give a little token of respect.
Yeah.
He's not very friendly. I say he because, well, it was only men who were working in that mill at the time, operating at that level. So, that's a little token of respect for our friend there, or our entity. And he seems to have been making more appearances since we've been doing that. I'll pass around the bowl. People take out a stone, toss it in. I say, well,
that's good.
I don't know if it would help him. I don't think he grants wishes, but
he's not a genie.
But, coins were placed on the eyes of the dead so that they could pay the ferryman.
Right.
Who would ferry them over the river Styx to the afterlife.
Yep.
And so it's kind of like
a historical, I guess, perspective too on the mirrors. Yeah, on the mirrors though. Back in the Victorian era, they covered the mirrors during funerals because they didn't want their spirits to get trapped in the mirrors. So maybe that even kind of has a correlation with mirrors today. So
well, in a mirror, that reflection it replicates our world. It's another world, seen in reverse, and you can almost imagine yourself stepping into that world, like what's on the other side through the looking glass, and there might be some sound basis to that.
Yeah,
and. Yes, in fact, the shadow person seemed to have been demonstrating itself just Saturday before last at Slater Mill site, because we had some persons there for we had the public ghost hunts. People could come in for a fee and investigate with us. And it's called Mills and Mysteries, A Ghostly Experience. It's a program that I initiated for Slater Mill. And, we broke the teams up into, 3 groups came up in. And, with the middle group of the night, the second one, we tossed these smooth black stones into the wheel pit. And it's like a well. And then we heard, and we went to dark, turned out all the lights. And as I was trying to coax the shadow person to come forward, and saying where it's usually seen, then we heard a shriek I don't know how else to describe it. It was a shriek. It sounded like a woman's shriek, which is strange because I expected a masculine presence, but if anything, but it was a woman's shriek, and it was quite audible, and it was disembodied. There was none of the people there. And then I saw a woman almost fall over, a young woman. She was pulled. Her arm and shoulder were pulled. I could see she was being pulled. Another lady, a moment later, had her hair lifted. Her hair just went up, like somebody was pulling it up. So that was active. That session was active. No.
Yeah, that
so, I like to think it was our shadow person in there that was demonstrating its presence.
Yeah, Alina the fan. We do have some questions and comments coming in from the chat room. And that one,
things I want to mention to you.
Yeah, no, definitely.
My new endeavors.
Definitely, but this is an interesting kind of a question. So
sure.
She says, I've always wondered why certain shadow people lurk and don't want to be seen. Now, yours there at Slater Mills seem to be pretty active, but there's other ones that just you look at them, they're kind of standing in the corner, or they might be in a doorway or something like that. So why do you think that may be, where some are more interactive and others?
Yeah, that's something about the shadow person, shadow ghost. That you see them on the corner of your eye, and then sometimes you'll turn and look, and there they are in the doorway, which is a spooky concept.
Yeah.
Scenario. I think they're not normally perceived anyway, but I don't think they want to be revealed. They have an intelligence about them. I don't know what they are. You say they're inhuman, which may hint at demonic, but they can appear in vaguely human form. They're around us. They're probably around us a lot more than we know. But sometimes we're just at the right place in that right moment where we can see them. I don't think they make themselves visible intentionally. I suppose that's possible. We just happen to glimpse them, they're suddenly revealed. But I do have several pictures of a shadow person. One was taken in the Lizzie Borden house in Fall River, Massachusetts, where the murders were committed in 1892. And, one of my brother's team was taking a picture of a foyer because she saw some movement in there. So she took her camera out and took a picture, hoping to get a ghost in the picture. Well, the picture is unremarkable. There's a settee and a window until you look in a mirror on an old dresser. In the mirror, you can see a black shadowy figure. So it seems that the shadow person was revealed in that mirror. Another one, I have two more shadow person pictures, and they were taken in the Wilkinson Mill. That's where it usually shows up if it's going to. And they're quite interesting. I'm going to try and have them copied for you, Mike, and I've got to get around to that very soon. And they're laminated, so I don't know how, because I thought I would keep the original email files that had them, and they've been lost.
Right.
But maybe this copy person I know runs a copy shop. She can work with it and try to get a good image and see if you can use that for an upcoming book or just for your own reference.
Yeah, we had talked about possibly using those in the book, which would be fantastic. So that's A Walk in the Shadows coming out in January. So it's coming out pretty quick here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I hope you'll be able to use it. In fact, I come to think of it, I have another shadow ghost picture that was taken at Slater Mill site. And that shows a friend of mine, Betty Malazzo, who's psychically gifted, a medium. And she was holding her hands out, trying to feel for a spirit. There's a spirit of what we think is a young boy in Slater Mill proper. Slater Mill was built in 1793. Mm-hmm. And Betty is in there. And in one picture, it's totally normal looking. And the next one, taken just a second later, her face has like a caul over it, almost like a veil. It's blotted out by something black and mysterious. Cannot explain that.
Okay.
And when if you lighten the picture, you can vaguely see Betty's face through that black mist or black veil. And so that's one I can send you to. I know I can get a good image of that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Absolutely.
So
I have a interesting question here up, and we have a $5 super chat that just came in from Andrew, and his trucking gnome says Halloween is just a few days away. So thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate that. And we also did have a 99-cent one from Tom McNicholas earlier, who has this question. This is kind of similar to the one you threw at me a couple years ago there at the Assembly Theater in Harrisville during the Ocean State Paracon.
Yeah.
So he asks,
2 years ago.
Yeah. He asks, have you ever heard or communicated with a shadow person? And we had talked about voices, if they have voices.
Sometimes they do. That's interesting. That they will have a voice sometimes. What are these things? They've got an intelligence about them.
Yeah, but it's more like telepathic, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. You can hear them. It's almost like a pounding in your ear. They're trying to talk to you. I've heard that. And they're not so much articulating words. It sounds like they're trying to get through or trying to speak. And I've heard that in that Wilkinson mill, the stone mill, built in 1810. I've heard that voice. It's a resonance. It's almost like if I could just listen, I can understand what they're saying, but I can't quite understand what it's saying or they're saying. And it's like a thudding in my ear, but it is words. Just can't figure out what they are. And one time I was going into this mill, this building, with an investigating team. And as soon as we entered the mill, we heard this terrific crash, like some big panel or wall falling over. But I went upstairs and where the sound had emitted from, and there was nothing up there that had fallen. So yeah, it made a noise. I didn't see anything it could have pushed. But yeah, they talked to us. Maybe they're talking amongst themselves, or maybe they're trying to speak to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, with sophisticated recording equipment, we could probably detect that as an EVP and pick up on what they're saying. But isn't that something to think that a shadow person could, have a conversation with you or is trying to talk to you? My question would be, what are you?
Exactly. Yeah, I kind of humorously...
Can you tell us? Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of humorously say sometimes that, we're not really going to truly know what these things are until we sit down and have a conversation with one. But when was the last time we actually sat down and had a conversation with a shadow person and say, hey, what are you?
You can only hope, right?
Right.
Yeah. Won't stick around that long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've also probed Slater Mill site with my team member. She's the director, Elise Jamarco Carlson. She is the director of Panorama Paranormal.
Yeah, she was in the chat a little bit earlier, so sorry there. Hello, Elise.
Oh, she was.
Oh,
hello, Elise. Yes. She knows what we're about tonight.
Yeah.
And Elise gave a series of talks, lectures and demonstrations on divination, and they were nothing short of excellent. She gave such a good presentation. Those were conducted in the Sylvanus Brown House, and also on Slater Mill grounds. And she demonstrated the pendulum and dowsing rods, and people just loved this. And also a Ouija board. There was a Ouija board present, one of those glow-in-the-darks. And this was all in the 1758 house on Slater Mill. So it's a perfect setting for a talk on and demonstration on divination.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So it's an active Halloween season.
A couple things real quick here. We have a $10 super chat from Deborah Goldstein Mueller, says great show. And then a $2 super chat from Trucker David Wise, says hope everyone has a wonderful Halloween. So thank you guys. Thank you both very, very much for that. Absolutely appreciate it.
Wonderful and a safe Halloween.
Yes. So couple other things here. So these shadows, and this is a time of year people are talking about Halloween, and people talk about the quote unquote thinning of the veil. Do you notice, because you've been doing this a long time, do you see more activity this time of year? Do you see more of this shadow play this time of year, or is it just really all year round?
Well, yes and no. It is more year round. It depends on your location as well. But traditionally, Samhain or Halloween is the evening where the veil between the living and the dead, material and thought or spirit, is rent thin. It's at its thinnest. It becomes flimsy, and spirits are thought to be able to more readily cross over through that veil into our world. And there may be something to it because it was believed in for so long. People are doing more spooky and paranormal things around this time of year.
Right. You kind of put yourself in the mood for it this time of year. So
yeah, but and on the positive of that, I've always felt kind of an eerie sense. It goes back to my childhood when Halloween is 5 days away. Now it's 2 days away. Tomorrow night when the sun sets, like it's setting now, that's going to be Halloween. I was so excited about that.
Right.
And Halloween night, it has I don't know how to describe it. It has a radiation to it. It has a shimmering to it. There's something magical afoot. I'm aware it's Halloween night, and I'm sure that's associational. Remembering all the good Halloweens we had back when it was so exciting to get dressed up and go out.
Exactly.
I would start thinking about Halloween when it turned September, like August and September now, 1 month before the Halloween month, October. And I remember being in elementary school, seeing the cardboard decorations. It was just pumpkins and skulls, and it was just so downright magical. That was true magic.
Yes, it's definitely a magical time of year.
Yeah.
I don't know how much is actually being broadcast because so many people are aware it's Halloween. How much is somewhat supernatural, and how much is because I remember good Halloweens. I always feel that eeriness. And the monster movies would be on. There would be a series of classic monster films. It would start off with Frankenstein, and 1931 Frankenstein. It would go to Dracula, then the Wolfman, then the Invisible Man, and Phantom of the Opera. It would have all five. Or the Mummy. The Mummy was in there too.
The Mummy. There you go. Yep.
And but that was 1932. These old, beautiful movies. And so there's always something special about Halloween. Now, because my mother recently passed, this will be a very sad time for me.
Yeah.
But it will be a beautiful time as well because I'm remembering all the Halloween she made special for us. And the Halloween song my father would sing. Yeah, so it's very reflective. So Halloween is still magical, just with a different mode to it. So, there's something about Halloween being truly magical. It's a night for the kids. They're having fun. And I don't know what it is about Halloween besides what I've told you, that as soon as the sun sets, because we sunset there, and I feel the magic coming in. I feel this presence of Halloween, the spirit of Halloween. I figure it's got to be real to other people, too.
Oh, I know it's certainly real for me. Katie, what do you think?
Yeah.
You going
my Halloween decorations on September 1st. So.
You guys have plans, or you're going to receive the trick-or-treaters?
Well, it's supposed to snow here in good old Iowa, so my son is only going to be tomorrow, actually. So, we have a costume for him, but I don't know if we're going to be out. Just it'll be a little too cold. So.
Yeah, it can be chilly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I want to watch myself on television that night. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Your show comes out.
Yeah.
Yep. Your show is going to be coming out. The Ghost Adventures. The Ghost Adventures.
Yep. The 2-hour Halloween special on the Travel Channel, and before that is going to be on the Travel Channel. Most Terrifying Places in America. Interesting. I mentioned Elise Jamarco Carlson, and she is the president of Johnston Historical Society in Rhode Island. And on their grounds, their property is a house that the society owns. It's the Elijah Angel House, the 1825 Elijah Angel House. And that was actually used for filming of the Travel Channel special, because they did a special on the Conjuring House.
Oh, okay.
The parent house. Okay. And contractually, they couldn't use the interior of that house because the other show was filming there. They filmed the exteriors of that house, that farmhouse. But Mrs. Carlson was gracious enough to invite the Travel Channel. Well, they contacted her about this house, and they'd heard of it through channels. And Elise Carlson, she went in with her camcorder and did a sweep of the house and narrated it and showed what features of the house were, the interior. And they actually filmed the interior setting was that actually the Elijah Angel house in Johnston, Rhode Island.
Oh, wow.
So that's something we're going to be looking for, the reenactment there. So first you see that house, that's the Conjuring House. And then they do the overnight investigation. Actually, I think there were 3 overnights that the Ghost Adventures team did at the Round Top Hill Farmhouse.
Yeah, I heard they were there for several nights. So it'd be interesting to see what they get.
Yeah, they're still suffering a breathing problem. I know Zach Bagans is, Oh, what a nice association that was. I mean, I didn't know how it would go. I thought it might be kind of perfunctory. I was, requested my president and my brother. They wanted to interview us. And, but then the investigation began earlier than scheduled because things wasn't supposed to start till the next night. But activity started to kick up in the house. So the Ghost Adventures team went into action. And they actually invited me in on that investigation.
Oh, great.
Oh, wow.
So that's something to watch, Well, not to give too much away, but I remember I was sitting at a console watching the different screens in different rooms. And they're monitoring what was going on in the house. And then it got more active, and I remember Mr. Bagans, Zach Bagans, said, "Get Carl up here. I want Carl in here." So it became part of that investigation.
Interesting. Well, we'll definitely be looking forward to checking it out.
It wasn't interesting. Oh, yeah. It's all genuine. That was not scripted. I mean, I didn't know how it would go. I hadn't worked with them directly before. We knew of each other, but that was an exciting night. And there was a genuine thunderstorm going on outside. Very, rainy night. So they didn't need the special effects for that. There was actually a thunderstorm all the time we were there. They were reminiscent of the old Gothic soap opera.
When we worked with them, there was a tornado.
What do these guys bring weather with them?
Thunderstorms
or what?
must follow them.
I think so. Oh, yeah, it was so.
We worked with them back in 2015, and there was tornado warnings and everything. So.
Wow. They're atmospheric or something. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good
I had to feel it. I've been in that house a number of times, and I know it has haunting, paranormal activity, but I had to be kind of spooked in that house. You couldn't help but feel it because you felt the dampness. It was summer, so you feel this like steamy dampness. And the thunderstorm is going on outside, which, lowered the temperature, and it's like outside anyway. And it's just like, this is a spooky place. It really is. It's because we had all the lights off in the investigation.
Right.
Yeah. The nighttime portion of it. Yeah, it was good stuff.
Good. We'll definitely be looking forward to that on Thursday, actually on Halloween night. We do have a couple questions here from the chat that I've kind of been hanging on to throughout the show that I do want to get to.
I hope we get to talk about Shadow Realms and demonology.
We will, yes.
Before we sign off.
We definitely will. We definitely will. But this one from this one from Betty Lange, which is an interesting question. How have your views changed through the years?
Well, I started off believing that all spirits were divided into 3 categories. They were either the souls of departed human beings, deceased people, ghosts, and then there would be the atmospheric or residual haunting that are just playbacks out of time and they're not aware of us, and the inhuman, the demonic. Maybe a 4th category could be a poltergeist. But I see now that these different categories blend more. Sometimes the residual hauntings are aware of us. Sometimes we can't determine whether it's a human haunting or a demonic, if indeed there is a real difference. I've learned that after 46 years, I still don't know what a ghost is. I have ideas. It ties into quantum mechanics, and that's what Elise Carlson has been researching. And
that's fair enough. I
think
always say that
a resonance. Yeah.
I always say that a lot of what we're doing is, I mean, it's all theory to this point to try to prove these. I mean, we have these experiences, but very, very difficult to actually put your finger on exactly what it is that's happening.
Right.
So
I think I've learned more what I don't know than what I know. But basically, these categories aren't as decisive as I once thought them to be.
Mm-hmm.
They lap over, they blend. Sometimes a poltergeist is a ghost.
Yep.
Sometimes what seems to be demonic is acting very much like a poltergeist.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that human spirit seems rather menacing. And then the shadow person, that throws everything we think we know about paranormal research out the window.
True enough.
So,
True enough.
yeah.
I've been having a heck of a time with that.
Less definites.
Yeah.
I'd say I've learned less. There are less definites than I originally conceptualized.
Yeah. All right, Carl, let's talk about it. Shadow Realms.
Yay.
Okay.
So there is the book, everybody. Shadow Realms Demonology
That is
Handbook.
the book, co-authored with Lana Jan Brock. And that took a couple of years to write because I would go through periods where, I and she would write a little bit and then write a lot and then take a month off and take 3 months off. But eventually it was put together. I thought Shadow Realms would be like a chapbook, like a reference book you could throw in your backpack. And I still want it to be a reference book that people take into a paranormal investigation. And it's predicated on my and our experiences. It's not the definitive work on paranormal research. It's just, these are my experiences. This is what I might have done differently. This is what I encountered. See if it can help you. That's the intent of the book. And it was going to be, I think, we'll get it up to 100 pages maybe if we really work on it with photographs and all that. That actually became precisely 300 pages. And it's a series of essays and case histories from our files and things I've encountered over the years, and also some theory. The earlier chapters have to do with theory and recounting some of my personal experiences.
Yeah, it's definitely been a interesting book because I've gone through this, and I think a lot of it, while you do have the personal experiences in there, I think a lot of it you can use as a reference book. So I visualized it being something that, if you've got it in your case or your backpack when you're going into a paranormal setting to investigate or to intervene on people's behalf. And, you might want to take that, what did Carl and Lana have to say about this or that? What about this, Is there anything about poltergeist here? Or what about wicked spirits or, maybe a succubus or an incubus? Let's look that up. And because it has a glossary of terms and an index so you can easily reference different points. And again, it's from my and our perspectives. It's not necessarily what will work for everybody, but this is what we went through. This is what I might have experienced at one time or another. Maybe you can learn from that. This is how I might have done it differently. This is what I thought worked, that kind of thing. Yes. Yeah. And I think with some of the, with some of the accounts that you give in here, experiences that you've had, I think people can, relate to, hey, I've had that experience too. Here's what Carl or Lana did in that particular situation. And so I think that helps people to actually be able to relate at maybe a little bit more personal level. So you kind of have a little bit of everything going on in here.
Yes. Yeah, it's a very eclectic work. It's a compilation of essays and case files, and some of my own speculation on it. You might like that chapter, Misleadings in Media. I think my favorite chapter that I wrote is Beware Those Dolls. It's about people who are freaked out by dolls. There's your chapter.
There you go. Yeah, a lot of people do get creeped out by the dolls.
Oh, you can't help but personalize them. They got a presence to them. You're wondering, are those little eyes going to follow us or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. When I see a doll in the room, if it's a paranormal setting, I'm waiting for is this going to be moved? It's going to be like in a different position or pose when I look at it again. I've seen enough television shows and movies about that.
Well, and a lot of the television shows these days and movies, of course, that kind of depict everything as being a demon. And Rebecca Gardner had a good question in here. How do you feel about the fact that so many people now claim demons when it's probably really a grumpy or irritable spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, difficult or impossible to differentiate there. There are signs that should reveal a demon. You usually feel a strong presence. You feel that something unwholesome has entered the room. You may detect foul odors, and temperature will drop dramatically, and people are pinched or slashed. Abrasions appear on the skin. That's probably something demonic and human. Then you get an ornery spirit that's throwing some things around or appearing. It's hard to say. That may not be classically demonic, though. It may just be an attitude that carried over from a once living person.
Right.
So you can make an evaluation, if not a determination, as to whether it's demonic or human generated. Often, if it's a demonic case and it's a stronger one, you will eventually become aware of it. Classic symptom of the demonic is a child in the house will be seeing a person that comes in. It's usually a lady, but it can be some friend, some ghost friend, some imaginary friend that comes in to visit the child. And after several visitations, it becomes menacing, like I've heard, which is particularly disturbing. Of a little girl in Brooklyn, New York, was seeing this. She had a lady coming into a room, and at first she thought it was an angel visiting her. But then she was crying to her mother. She said, the lady's turning mean now. She smiled and her teeth were pointed. And she doesn't have eyes anymore. And it's okay. It's demonic. The child is picking up on it. Now, of course, you get into child psychology, and is this an imaginary friend, or is this a persistent nightmare? But then the adults start to see it. Right. And then then we evaluate that as demonic, or probably demonic, and it's like, it's the difference between a bacterial infection and a virus. A ghost haunting a human generated spirit can be likened to a bacteria. You can be inoculated. You can be treated for that. Sometimes if you tell the ghost, leave me alone, it will abate. It will go away, at least for a while, if it's a human generated spirit. With the demonic, it's more like a virus. Antibiotics don't treat it. It has to be resisted calmly but steadily, and basically ignored, which is hard to do, and then it tends to lose power. The demonic haunt won't persist for as long as the human haunt. Human haunt can stay around for a century or more. They all tend to run out of steam after a while. Haunting isn't perpetual. The batteries get low somehow, and a place can only be haunted for so long. Historic hauntings tend to persist the most. They can go on for centuries. The Tower of London, for instance, but there's a lot of reports and hearsay. Demonic haunt, that tends to come on suddenly. I have noticed that unlike with the human haunts, I'll call it, the demonic haunting, a demonic attack, always involves some kind of psychological trauma or some unresolved issue. There always has to be some disturbance that invited this or weakened the subject, and then it comes in. You probe long enough, something happened there, something weird, something in the family's history, of the individual's history, personal history. So you can address it that way. If the trauma is resolved or the issue addressed, then that will weaken the demonic haunt. But there's no surefire. There's actually no, and I state this in Shadow Realms, there's no outright cure for a haunted house or a demonic attack. You just kind of have to wear it away, wait it out, employ what methods you can that seem effective. Every situation is unique. And so it's not like somebody can come in and guarantee your house is going to be cleansed of its spirit presence. But with a human spirit, you can just aggravate them so that they don't want to show up anymore. I'll tell you, sometimes mediums, nothing personal against them, but mediums and psychics can irritate a ghost so much that it just stops showing up. That's enough.
They just get tired of it.
There's the famous, axiom of a skeptic becoming a believer because he or she sees something ghostly. But usually the skeptic will scoff so much that they're trying to make a point. He didn't prove this to me. There's no ghost to the spirit. Just I'm nuts to you and doesn't show up anymore. I don't know how that works, but it tends to. It drains the spirit's battery, as I was calling it. So there are ways, but some unorthodox ways of quelling a haunting or lessening a haunting.
And I've heard of people who have, come to some sort of agreement and have cohabitated with the spirits in their home.
Every once in a while, the spirit in my parents' house. Yeah, and then it's welcome. Many people that I visited have called us into with the various groups which I've been associated. They don't want the spirit to go away. Some of them may say they do, but they are so enthusiastic about this haunting, and we're giving them validation by investigating their house and researching the house, and supposedly haunted. That they are into it. That's why sometimes you'll say, well, we've done our best and we think it's gone, it's clear, and then 2 weeks later they're calling us, it's back again.
Right.
They really didn't. Many people didn't want it to go in the first place because for one thing, there's something psychological and paranormal projection where actually people impose their problems onto the ghost. Everything was all right before this house became haunted, and get the ghost away and then we'll be all right again. And you find out it really wasn't all right. And the ghost gives them a medium to explain their disruptions, maybe their personal issues. The ghost is making this happen. And it may be to some degree, but sometimes paranormal manifestations are more symptoms than they are causes of the discord in the home.
Right.
It's like that house in Brooklyn, New York, I was telling my team, I was a member of TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society at the time. I said, I'd be surprised if this house wasn't haunted. The paranormal activity is just a symptom of what's been transpiring here in past months and years. They had a very, very disturbing history, a very interesting history. And I think that resulted in the paranormal. The paranormal didn't cause the disruptions.
Right.
If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, but we are actually
first, the chicken or the egg. Out of time.
We are. We're at our hour mark.
Are you going to say that terrible thing you guys always say? We're out of time.
I hate to say it too.
When we're on a roll.
We are on a roll. If there's comments in the chat, they're saying Carl is so fun to listen to, very educational.
You coaxed me, you opened me up, and now you shut me down.
Here we go.
Need to have a 2-hour show with you, huh?
We should.
It should be. Well, let's do it again soon. Let's do it by year's end or early in the new year.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I have to be early in the new year because we're booked up for the rest of the year. In fact, we have your brother on next week.
Oh, aren't you popular?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Maybe I'll call in and ask a long question.
You could call right in, sure.
Get in the chat room at least, yeah.
Yep.
I can't do the chat room right now when I'm talking to you. But yeah. Okay.
So where can everybody find Shadow Realm so they can pick that up?
Yes. Well, we have a handle and we have a website, Demonology Incorporated. It's actually like under an HTTP, but it's Demonology Incorporated. That's a good way. And Panorama Paranormal. Email address is panorama@paranormal@cox.net, cox.net. So Panorama Paranormal, Demonology Incorporated. And you can look me up, and by default, you can always find me on Facebook. I mean, I'm not on it every day, but I will answer my messages.
Right.
I'm probably the only Carl L. Johnson in the state of Rhode Island who's a demonologist, so it's not that hard to find me. Yeah, I feel like there's so much more we can talk about it. So just do a search for, Demonology Incorporated and Panorama Paranormal. Those are vehicles to track me down.
All right. Well, there you go, everybody. Definitely pick up his book. Watch the show on Thursday and keep up to date with everything that's going on with Carl, because you have a lot that's going on out there as well at Slater Mill.
New projects are commencing. Yeah, there's things going on. Like Duo Demonology is a new endeavor. I'm doing that along with James and Nitto. And duo, that's Latin for a double. Duo Demonologist or Demonology, and he and I are beginning a series of lecture programs. And we are James and I are going to be at the Rochester Winter Parafest in February of next year. We're planning to go to Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. That'll be July 26th of next year. The Ocean State Paracon, which is morphing its format under Ken DaCosta. That's next summer. Paracon Maine in September of next year. So I got some things in the local lecturing too at libraries and colleges are being organized. So we got a lot to talk about if people get in touch with me and bring your situations to me. I'd be interested in what's happening with people out there and around.
Haunted Road Media Paracon.
Yes. Okay. Hope you got all that in. At the end.
Sounds like you have a lot going on next year already. So
hopefully we're still on the air with all I just said.
Oh, we are.
Yeah.
I have to be the one that hits the button to cut us off. So
good. You have control over that. Yeah.
I do. So, all right. Thank you very much, my friend. I absolutely appreciate it. So
pleasure talking to both of you. And yeah,
we'll definitely have you back on again soon. In fact, you want to know when would be a great time to have you back on? Would probably be in January when the Shadow Person book is released because. Because I have you in that book a lot.
Okay, well, yeah, I was saying hopefully I've contributed some material to that, and I'll get you those pictures too to see how they reproduce.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Get the photos.
I'm also very, very interested in shadow persons. Trying to understand a little more about them.
Yeah, it's become a very interesting project. I've loved it, and I really appreciate all the help and insight that you've provided. So this is going to be a great book.
Yes. I look forward to that. Its release. Okay. Take care, my friends.
You take care.
Happy Hallows. Yeah.
Yes, happy
Joyous
Halloween.
Samhain, happy Halloween, and talk with you soon.
Yes, we'll talk with you soon.
Good night. Bye.